came from a conversation I had with my buddy Renata, and she just said it in conversation. I thought that would be a really awesome mini session that we could do and show some value. Remote Sprinters is, for anyone that isn't aware, is a community to help people enter virtual facilitation and help them build up the practice and the confidence to do that for themselves. Really, what we're going to do is go into Mural. If anyone's unfamiliar with it, I'll give you some pointers, and that'll really set things off. And I think you'll leave the session with a better idea of how to tackle any meeting and turn it into a workshop, and also question why you meet in the first place. So what I'm going to do is get the link to Mural, which I prepared last night. Dana, I still like designing in Mural. I just know where everything is, and it kind of works.
It's faster.
It's faster, yeah.
It's your home turf, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so let's get into the chat. As someone that uses Buffer a lot, I know exactly where that is. Okay, so that's in the board. I'm going to screen share to orientate ourselves, and away we go. Okay, this is our world. So I'm just going to zoom in on the left here, and I'm going to command you all to come to me. There we go. And I'd love you to think for the next few minutes, what's the one regular meeting you'd love to get rid of and why? Whether you're in a company and there's a daily stand-up or a once-a-week thing, or you're a freelancer or run your own business and the client's requested check-ins, or you've done them yourself and you're just finding there's nothing special about it. Some people don't attend to it. How can I do something with this regular meeting? So there's some green sticky notes here, and I'd love for over the next, let's say 6 minutes, find out what's the regular meeting that you could really do without. And that's going to frame it quite nicely to understand what we could do about that. So, ticky-typey. I might set a little, oh yeah. Set a timer done. I've got to think now. Probably the thing to think about is why. Why do you want to get rid of it? Is it not interesting? Is it at the wrong time of day? Has it got no structure? Is it taken over by one person? Those kind of things. Gonna have to do something about this silent thing. Next time, find some way to pump music into this thing.
I think Butter doesn't it have thinking music?
Great thought, Dana. Yeah, they do.
Early morning thinking music, appropriate.
Early morning, yeah. Maybe a concentration playlist. What do you think?
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
About 120, 100.
Okay. I'll find that later. Okay, we've got some ideas here. Does anyone want to share early and share what's the one regular meeting you'd love to get rid of?
I thankfully don't have too many meetings that I don't enjoy, really. Sorry, I should be using the hands raised thing. I always forget Butter has this. But Monday morning meetings for me, it's like a team all hands. There's usually about 7 of us there. Uh-huh. And my updates take about 2 minutes. Like, I just say what I'm going to be working on in the week, maybe field some questions, but then everybody else talks for about an hour. Do I need to be here anymore? Like, yeah, it's quite frustrating. But
okay, so you're saying that there's it's not fair going around the room or something, like some people hog it.
Yeah, like it doesn't feel like a good use of my time. Like it feels like it's good use for the 2 or 3 people who actually discuss stuff that's going to happen in the week. But for me, especially as a freelancer, it's like I could be using that time to actually do some work.
Mm-hmm. Doing something else. Nice. And the factors of it are that there's no structure. Are the updates you're getting not valuable?
Yeah, that too.
Okay.
Like I just, again, as a freelancer, I sit in my little pocket, do my work. So knowing about all these various business opportunities is not necessarily useful.
Oh, that is, that one's a killer. Who would you like to pass to? Who would you like to hear from?
Dana has her hand up, so I'll go to her next.
I guess we'll go to Dana. Okay, Dana, what have you got?
So I have the same with multiple clients where I do some work in the background and then I deliver it, whether it's a brand brief or an article or just whatever the work, the tangible work that I'm doing for them. And so I submit it, and then a day later there's a meeting where we go through it together, but it's usually the first time they've seen it. And I've tried so hard to make this like, I've done a Loom where I walk through it and they still want to do the meeting, the handover meeting, but it's also like, why don't you review it in your own time, collect your thoughts, and then we meet? Or why don't you collect your thoughts and then send them to me? So it feels like a waste of my time, but they're my client, so it's their time technically.
You feel like they've got some hold over you, but you have to come because they're paying you to be there.
Yeah, and I've tried so many different ways to change the shape of that meeting, and they just won't go for it.
Okay. So where is the lack of value for you? Do you feel like they should have done their homework and then come to the together time to discuss or make decisions or something?
I think so, because I don't need to sit on a Zoom with you for 25 minutes where you read the article that I sent you 2 days ago.
Mm. That's like the what's the Jeff Bezos thing where the first half hour they all read together, like
a silent meeting.
Yeah. Not
now
saying
that
that's
makes
correct.
sense if we're all receiving the information at the same time, but this is
Gotcha.
I don't need to watch you read it.
Yeah. And they would have had it before that session, right? So they could have done it like a few days before or whatever.
Yes.
Cool. What do you call that session? Is it a stand-up or a review, or what is it?
It's almost like an asset discussion.
That is sleep-inducing. That needs a better name first and foremost. Okay. Cool. Thanks, Dana. Who would you like to pass to this morning?
Oh, let's see.
Or afternoon?
I can't see anyone's name now.
Just point at them and say you.
The man with the glasses.
Abzul, your time is now.
Hi. Abzul, now I know your name. Thank you. Oh,
my time has come.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have what I put down is these project update meetings. Mm-hmm. At the moment, I'm involved in a project. We have an update meeting, once a fortnight. There's quite a few people that attend that meeting. there's like a kind of steering committee that's overseeing the project, and even though we have a set agenda to deal with, the meetings tend to run over and go all over the place, once the agenda is done. And okay, I shouldn't complain, because at one of those meetings the project got extended with some other work, so that was great. But it's time that could be better spent. That if we had a more structured approach, that's my view.
Gotcha. So once a fortnight sounds like it's more of an overarching thing rather than how are we doing? What kind of topics are covered in that? Is it more, how's this project going? We're supposed to be working for 8 months. We're in the 6th month. Like what kind of things to get?
It's progress. It's progress. We're working on a timeline as well. So we would start off by saying, okay, here's where we are. This is what's done. This is what's still outstanding. This is the kind of problems we're having, and that kind of thing. But because there's multiple parties at that meeting, people start thinking up things and wanting to add things and questioning things because they didn't attend a previous meeting, etc. So that can get somewhat irritating.
Yeah. Okay. Irritating because non-attendance on a few of them. Fantastic. Thank you, Afzal. And by the way, I'm not here to solve your problems. You're here to do that. I'm just going to give you a bit of a space to think about it, but also a bit of a structure that works for me. Afzal, who would you like to pass to?
I'll pass to Kathy.
Kathy, go.
So mine was around, the their monthly or quarterly marketing planning meetings, and the fact that not enough structure and too many opinions, too many people wanting to have their say. So it becomes inefficient use of time for everyone there.
Do people interrupt? Is there no agenda, so they just feel like going off on a complete tangent? Like, how messy does this session get?
There's an agenda, but there's also quite a bit of discussion. So the discussion gets, quite vocal, just in terms of everyone's wanting to have their say. Okay,
so it gets vocal, meaning there's probably no roles in terms of, how this session's being managed.
They need a facilitator and structure.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And do you find value out of the content and just not the structure, or is it a complete waste of time for you?
No. The content is good. It's just how it's managed.
Great. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, Kathy. Who would you like to pass to next?
I think our chap India is. I didn't catch his name, unfortunately, but Mr. India.
Sid, it's your time.
Nice. So. My daily meeting, which I sort of want to remove, is the daily check-ins, because it's occurring very frequently. The updates are very redundant, and we sort of discuss the same thing again and again. So it feels like waste of time, because things cannot change within short frequency. At least in the current work I'm doing in, it takes time because of dependencies and other things. So that's the one.
Gotcha. Okay. So it feels like a waste of time and energy. You would like to just get rid of it. How many people are on it? Does everyone have a say?
There are almost 4 to 5 people regularly, but at least personally, I feel daily going and saying there is no progress because of dependence and things. After some time, I feel as if I'm not doing some work because things are not going. So it also personally takes a toll on my end.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, excellent, cool. Let us take that and move down. Okay. So, that is a bad spelling error. Do not write at midnight. Okay, so let me just summon you here. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to just look at what a structure or how you could start thinking about solving this problem will be. And then we'll go into you starting to redesign what those sessions look like. So I thought I'd share some tidbits because I've been in many boring, ineffective meetings. And one day I just flipped. I had to take control. There was a regular meeting that happened every week. It was on a Tuesday morning. And we all went into a room and there was absolutely no structure. There was a title to the meeting. It was for a whole hour. And it was more if anyone wants to talk about anything, they can. And I just got fed up of it. So I dipped into my Sprint book, found a format that could work, and assigned roles and started doing it. I think to make this effective and for you to do it in a repeatable manner, creating a template is probably the easiest way to go. The hardest thing with that is going back to the template and keep on using it. But that initial, very easy to use template is going to really help. And it doesn't have to be one that takes a lot of time. I think even here, screen sharing something is demonstrating a format to you and it's got your attention. And I think that can really help. I think also what can happen is whoever is running the session, it can be quite a burden. And if they don't turn up that day, the session can fall apart. So I think a good regular workshop could be designed so that anyone could run it. If you're a developer, it's called the bus rule. Essentially, if you're run over by a bus, can someone else do your work for you? And then I think doing the work in the session is much more value than just doing a update of where you're at. So Afzal, your kind of project update, I'm starting to think, could that be solved in a different way? Could you get a weekly email with the finer points? Could there be, we at the product studio I work at, on the projects we work on, we do a Loom video at the end of every day and just share progress. Which means we can screen share and use a few other tools. So I'm wondering if those sessions that you attend, could they be, while everyone's together, could they be a deeper dive on things, or could it be a more of a showcase so that people, I wonder if you use that format for something else and they get information drip fed up until that point. The useful thing about a workshop rather than a meeting is a meeting happens and then people need to write minutes and disseminate notes and kind of keep on emailing people after it. With a workshop, the content is right in front of you and you're creating as you go. At the end of this session, you're going to have a template for your regular meeting that you're turning into a workshop. And we can see how we got to that point by looking at the work that we did. So I think creating that thought process and putting it in a space can really help people know what problem were you solving and how did you get there. And I think finally something different piques interest. Dana, I looked at a old article from you where you were theming some meetings. You made a movie night one and you provided popcorn and like fizzy drinks and things. You could do that online. You could say, well, the Friday session is always hat day, so you have to wear a hat that day. And, people are human. And I think it creates a little bit of interest that makes your session much different to anything else. And finally, doing the same thing over and over that isn't working is the definition of insanity. So be brave, try something new. Okay. Thus, end of the lesson. So I'm going to share a structure and then you're going to get into it. So simple. I might somehow copyright it, but I won't. It's totally available. For anything that I look at it and say, what do we need to achieve? Not just in this session, in the larger kind of overall. And I look at that, and then reverse engineer to get to that point. So if I'm engaged on a project, or say I'm teaching students a introduction to design sprints, I would start to think, what do I need to achieve with that? I need them to know a basic definition of design sprints. I need them to have started the process. Maybe we do a small activity like a lightning decision jam, or crazy eights or sketching, so they have a taste for it. And I probably need to answer their questions. So once I answer that, then I've started to formulate a structure within the session. So I already know I need Q&A at the end. I already know I need an activity for them to work in. I already know that I need to start with a definition, or show them examples. So I'm starting to answer what I do in the session. So that's first and foremost. And do you know what? Usually I set this up, like the description of this session is here. I copy and paste it off the event meeting link, and I can always just go back to that. So knowing why you're here and why you're doing this, I think is super, super important. Then I go into this kind of 4-block thing. Don't know what to call it, a 2x2 structure, I don't know. But I start with a check-in. I go to the kind of understand and the knowledge session. I then go to doing an activity or solving something together, and then a checkout. Most workshops I've been in attendance to, they run out of time for the checkout. And I'll show you a kind of tip on how to really never run out of time. But yeah, just to add color to this, the check-in is about an activity to set the tone. I want it to be playful. I'm also onboarding them to the technology, and it's a secret way for people to get engaged. I've run workshops with one of the top 4 consulting companies in the world, and they would often want to remove the check-in warm-up activity because they want to get into it. And then we find the problem that we're starting to do the problem-solving activities and they can't use Miro, or they can't understand the voting, or they don't know how to drag in an image. And using a check-in activity, such as the one we did today, bring out your dead, bring out your regular meetings you just would love to get rid of, or draw a picture of what you can see outside your window or behind your screen. These activities might sound like they're extra, but they do so many things. They get everyone using their technology. They're getting everyone engaged in what you're trying to achieve. And people are starting to have an emotional response to what you're doing. Hopefully happiness, or at least intrigue as to what you're doing. But for facilitators and anyone running the session, they are actually getting people in the shortest amount of time, and very open. You could have a high skill level or a low skill level, but a check-in activity brings it all together. And maybe we'll run a session on check-in activities you could start with. But yeah, a check-in activity is not to be missed. It's not extra. It's not team building that we could do another day. It is, even in an hour, using the first 7 minutes for a check-in is gold. Okay, I've talked for a long time. Any questions? Does anyone not do check-ins, or anyone have done and have found some learnings from them?
Oh, wait. I'm using the proper channels. So I have found, to support what you're saying, Ross, that the investment in time you make comes back to you in workshop energy. And so doing that check-in instead of just jumping right into the boring stuff, you've got everyone kind of with you in it. You're building that camaraderie, you're raising the morale, you're creating something fun. It's such a great ROI. And so, yes, you've lost 8 minutes of your 60 and really 55 minutes because everyone's going to come late. But thinking about what you get back in that workshop energy, it's so worth it.
It so is. It so is. The 7 minutes of doing that and getting people aligned and in the same place versus the first, like you say, you know, even half the session going, oh, I'm not following. Where are you? Could you share the link again? Mm-hmm. And you might have noticed in our check-in activity, I asked you to do turn taking. That wasn't me picking on people. That was you picking on people, which is slightly less controlling. But it enables everyone to have a fair say. It enables for me to understand that everyone's connected. They can hear me. They're in the right place. Anyway, I feel like we've done check-ins. Great. Thank you, Dana. So the understand phase, I feel like in this area, you need to not have huge green sticky notes. You need to kind of say why we're here. We're here. Also, what other things? Shout them out if you want. I guess define things. Dana, we've talked about definition of things, and sometimes it can be a little laborious, like the dictionary definition of design thinking, because I've Googled it. Like it's sometimes low value, but I feel like it's asking the stupid questions yourself sometimes.
But using the definition language doesn't help anyone. You've got to use practical language that people understand. So reading the definition, the textbook definition of design thinking, isn't going to help your workshop. Whereas putting it into a context that your attendees understand is absolutely going to create value.
Yeah. Storytelling can really help there as well. Yeah, I like that. Set the mission. If you're in a design sprint, you're saying, what the long-term goal is, what are our sprint questions, what do we know, who are our users, et cetera, et cetera. So it's that kind of, divergent piece. The solving area, I think, is about when you do the work in the meeting. Often, when I run sessions with Butter, we use breakout rooms because that changes the structure of the session. It doesn't feel like a 1 hour lecture. It feels like there have been little segments within it that feel interesting. When you do the work in the meeting, you are canceling any further meetings or an email chain after it to try and get a decision. You're solving the problem and you're doing it together, and that means that everyone's bought in. Postponing a decision in this kind of context is death. You're really just asking for a repeat of the session. So creating solutions and deciding your move is key there. And then finally, and then we'll get into doing your workshops. Very exciting. And I think I found a way to put on thinking music, which I'm personally excited by, is the checkout. And this is where I'm going to share the, how to never run out of time. Let's put some time things on here. So for some reason, the number 7 works really well. I've had check-ins for 10 minutes and it felt too long, and 5 minutes felt too short. For some reason, 7 works. So you can do the check-in for 7 minutes. You could treat these as 15-minute kind of quarters, but for some reason, I think you can skew it a bit to the content. Understanding, you could say that's 15 minutes. I think for the solving, you could say, yeah, maybe altogether, maybe you break out work and then come together and spokesperson from each one shares. So maybe that's 20 minutes. And then a checkout, maybe you do a rosebud thorn or a I wish, I like, I wonder. I like, I wish, I wonder. But if you tot all of those up, it doesn't come to 60 minutes. And I think that is the trick that some people just don't realize, is that your workshop design, if you plan it right, is probably 50 minutes long or 55 minutes long, because some things overrun. People often try and leave the session earlier because they have another meeting starting on the hour. And I think just allowing that time for checking out and asking any questions. As someone running the session, you could get feedback. You could say, hey, what did we all think of this session? Yeah, it was great, Afzal, do it again. Or Amy, like, I love the hat idea. We should always wear hats. That is something that you can get from the checkout. For someone running these sessions, this is my most valuable thing. It's my learning loop. You know, we've done the work. I trust the process, but this is going to make the next session much better. Okay, enough talking. Any questions out of that format? I'll think of a catchy name. Maybe I'll run a workshop to do a brand sprint or something. But yeah, any questions on this kind of format? Have you seen it before?
I've not seen this before, and I just had a quick question, maybe just more of a technicality, but for understand, like, at least in meetings that I've been in before, when people start like talking about their problems, then they just get kind of ranty with it, or they'll start like little not fighting, but, you know, like discussing, and then that tends to derail a workshop.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I was just... Maybe that's a comment rather than a question. Just something that I've always struggled with and I've never found a solution for.
Okay, try this next time. So instead of going around and allocating time, even if you put a timer, some strong-minded people go through the timer. It's like a mirage to them. They just go through. They hear a bing bong, but it doesn't matter. What I've tended to do is ask everyone to write down their contribution. So if you were asking the question, hey, ideas for when we're allowed to meet together in real life. So everyone writes, you know, what they want, tropical island with, I don't know, sun. Then what you're doing is two things. You're documenting everything in one place, so it's not all vocal. You're also, in a little kind of facilitator trick, you're enabling a structure to take place, which means that all people have to do is read what they wrote. And you have to be very explicit at that. So if I said, hey, team, write down where you would like our summer retreat. You have 3 minutes, write it on a sticky note. People will write it. I'll also play music so they can't talk. And then at the end of that session, I'll say, okay, one by one, we're going to share. Just read what's on the sticky notes. Amy, you start. And then when you've finished, I'll say, Amy, can you pass to Afzal? And all of that gives a sense of control and structure. But you've also got the payoff of after the session, you can have lots of sticky notes of ideas for your summer retreat. So give that a shot. Does that help?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Cool. No worries. People love talking. People love talking. I only have a fixed time on this earth. Okay. So any other questions or highlights before we get into solving your horrible regular meetings? No, all good. Okay. Lots of interested faces. I'm going to do this as well. I don't have a horrible regular session, but I feel like this one could be improved. So I'm going to do a grid as well. So use that structure. Think of an upcoming session. Maybe it was one that you want to get rid of, or one you have this week, or one you're planning next week. And think of that session and use that format. Start with what you want to achieve. So out of that session, what are you going to have? Like decisions made on our long-running project, ideas for our summer vacation, things we can send out to people to let them know we think they're great. And then go into that structure. And if you have extra time, you can break out of this structure. You could Hans Zimmer it and understand the rules and break them. And yeah, put some ideas together. So I'll put some time on. 7. I'm actually going to do this in Butter because I think we have some thinking music. Okay, so play music when timer is active. Yes. So let's get some chill Butter beats and away you go. 1 minute to go. Okie dokie. So let's go around, have about maybe, I'll put a timer on for a minute each. But just briefly explain what you've been able to put together. Afzal, do you want to go first? I feel like, absolutely. I feel like, I'm interested to know what you're going to do with that fortnight meeting, or whether you did something else. So, what have you got?
So really what we're trying to achieve is really just provide progress on the project.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, like, in terms of kickoff, just to ask people, what's the one thing that you're grateful for? The host of things that, and especially South Africa is going through some turmoil right now. We almost had an insurrection, but anyway, it's a story for another time. And I think in terms of the understand part is like really looking at what was done, in the last period since we reported.
Mm-hmm.
What's the plan for the next period? Sorry, I got a little bit distracted with something else, and I didn't complete.
That's okay.
Next period.
Yeah.
And then, just an overall, about, the prognosis for completing the project in terms of what is happening. So that's what we want to achieve. And sorry, I was so busy, so I'm going to stop there. That's
great, Afzal. If anything, you can continue this outside of this session if it's valuable to you. But
it certainly is, and I will.
No worries. Who would you like to pass to next, Afzal?
Let me see. I shall pass to Sid.
Sid, time is now. Off you go.
Okay, so I was planning a meeting for when we get a requirement, like how do we take that requirement and then process it further.
Mm-hmm.
So the check-in would be, since we are working from home, like some things like who is your company, like to understand people and better to get into things. And understanding phase one, like a requirement walkthrough by the team who are bringing that requirement itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then discuss the current load or priorities of the team, so that both the teams are coming into and better understanding. And then I divided the solve phase into 3 steps. One is the steps to implement the requirement itself, and then deciding on the dependencies to implement that,
mm-hmm.
and then estimating how long does it take. So everybody is aware of what is the timeline and things.
Yeah.
So for the checkout, one, it is finding out who are the people who need to contact, and what are the ways we are going to contact with them,
mm-hmm.
and also deciding when we are going to join back, and then decide further.
Great, thank you very much, Sid. That looks like you put a lot of thought into that and start to kind of solve the problem. Great. Who would you like to pass to, Sid?
I would pass it to Amy.
Okay, so for mine, it was those Monday morning meetings that take an hour when they shouldn't. So for me, this is a good time for face-to-face, just talking to people as well as just aligning. So the first step would be to just kind of chat about what you did on the weekend. It's quite a nice icebreaker. Then the second part, which was the understanding, is to get everybody to write down their kind of plan for the week. So what they did last week, what they hope to achieve this week, and then any blockers. Hopefully they could ever think about that before they turn up. The next part is to kind of coordinate with each other. So to be like, okay, we both have the same thing. Maybe we can have a meeting about that later. Or, oh yeah, I didn't know you were working on this. Let's have a chat about that. And then once all that alignment's done, then you can just kind of break off, be like, okay, enjoy your week. If there's anything you're looking forward to on the weekend, I don't know. That's where I kind of ran out of steam.
That's great. Yeah. Are you going to give this a go?
I'll give it a go. Yeah. Hopefully I can cut it down from an hour to maybe a bit less than that. Just saying it out loud, it shouldn't take an hour, really.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let us know how it goes. Who would you like to pass to?
I'll pass to Kathy.
Go, Kathy.
Great. So talking about the marketing planning meetings and wanting them to be more efficient and effective, starting off with what's the most interesting thing you heard or did yesterday or recently, and then moving on to the confirming the objective outcomes, desired outcomes, and then clarify the format to be followed, which is, writing, everyone shares on stickies, and not a lot of discussion takes place. And then plan out the activity for the next, month, quarter, whatever the planning session needs. Share on your stickies the actions that you'll be taking, and reach consensus on the priority of those actions using dot voting.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then checking out just any questions for the next steps. How was it for you, and anything you liked, didn't like, or do better? Should we do better next time?
Awesome. Thank you very much. And who would you like to pass to?
I think Dana's the last one.
I think it's Dana. Yeah. Go for Dee. I think you're on mute.
Okay. So I talked about my challenging meeting, my asset handover meeting, and I kind of created a hybrid silent meeting, like the Bezos thing we were talking about, where I give them the time to review it in a structured way, and they record their feedback on sticky notes in the mural, and then we'll read and share out and have a facilitated discussion. And then the check-in and the checkout, since I have all this downtime while they're reading the assets, I thought the check-in should be a song you can't stop listening to right now. And then the checkout is I send everyone a link to the playlist of all the songs that they listed in the beginning, because I have that time to build a playlist in Spotify while they're working.
That's nice. Cool. Are you going to use it?
No. Only because I've tried really hard to onboard this client to a new way of doing things, and they're just really happy with the way things are. And at a certain point, you say, "Okay, you're the client. I'm going to defer."
Yeah, real life sometimes makes sense. I was trying to explain to one of our startups that user testing is kind of the default way of solving these problems, and they're descoping it. And on that bombshell, let's bring us. Yeah, that is nice and colourful. Okay, so final things, and then I'll share some notices on the notice board. So if you wanted to understand what this all looked like, your specific meetings were about gathering problems or, diverging. You could use check-ins for that, but also, here are all the problems, and then coming together. But actually, this session itself has been a bit of a double diamond. So to start with, we gathered your meetings you wanted to get rid of, and then we came together and found some trends and kind of found some categories around it. and then we diverged again and create solutions. And then we've just come together to summarize, and we could take this on a stage further and say, what's your action plan for using these things? So everything in my world is a double diamond, but for good reason. It adds structure, and particularly for designers, they often will use half the budget deciding how to solve the problem. So having a structure already that people have spent a long time thinking about is super useful. Okay, last few minutes. This is a community. There is absolutely, time for sharing and things to get advice from. So I invite you to put down any questions. Also put down any advice you can share and what you would like to offer people here. It is a place of sharing and good practice. So, I don't need to do all the workshops. Ideally, in the future, this is led by, any one of you or the wider community. So have a think about that. Maybe do it outside of this session. But other than that, this recording will be available on the Remote Sprinters website. That's going to be there. You can continue the conversation in Slack. The link to that is on the website. And thank you so much for being part of this. And let me know what you think. If there's any ideas for future sessions, be very happy to kind of do that. But thank you so much.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good day.
You too, everyone. Cheers.
You too.
Cheers. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.